All right, we are getting started. Hope you're all doing well. So I just looked, and it looks like only one person has taken the exam so far. And I'm not sure why that's the case. And so it's really important that you do take the exam right now. So the exam is open until Friday. I did that because I opened it late. I opened it on Friday, but only one person taking it yet anyway. But it's open until Friday. But I'm starting on new material right now, and so I don't know how your brain works, but my brain is such that if I haven't regurgitated, as they say, if I haven't vomited up what I already know, then it's going to be hard for me to keep filling myself up with new knowledge. So that's one of the reasons we have these periodic exams, is so you can kind of let go of what you've been learning and then not let go of it totally. It'll come back to you someday, but it's nice to let go. Anyway, you understand my point, I think, that you need to take the exam before you start getting new material, but I am already giving you new material today. So anything I need to know about from you about why you haven't taken it yet or having trouble? I know some people may have been nervous about it, but if you're nervous about knowing the material, then not taking it is a worse idea than taking it, because we have to learn new material, and you will have trouble learning the new material if you haven't. So anyway, any questions about the exam? So so you go on Canvas, you log into Canvas, and you go to quizzes. You also should be getting notifications that there's an assignment due. I think it should be giving you that. And then if you follow those notifications, you can go right to the assignment.
Yeah.
So please go ahead and take the exam. I'm telling everyone we have an exam due by Friday. I'm going to close it on Friday. It closes on Friday. And after that, if you haven't taken it, you may be in a serious situation. There's only 4 grades in this class, the 3 exams, and then your overall engagement. And those all count equally. So if you miss an exam, the best grade you can possibly get is a 75. And any drop in your engagement or anything starts putting you below that. So don't miss an exam. All right, are we clear? Okay. And now we're starting on a whole new set of materials. So again, I won't make the point again. But now we're getting into what is functionalism. And maybe some of today's discussion will help you keep reviewing, because functionalism is already kind of a topic for the exam. And what do we know about functionalism already, or how do we, I always think it's really helpful to put what you're learning in relationship to what you already know, and to keep it all kind of connected. And so what we know about, we know a few things about conflict theory. About functionalism. We know that Durkheim started it. We know that he was worried mainly about social solidarity, keeping everybody together, everybody glued together as a group. And that he thought that that's what was functional for humanity, that human beings need to have a social group to help them survive. And if that group is full of conflict and disharmony, then that's not helpful to the survival of the individual. So the individual needs this group of people to be part of, and that group needs to be connected. Social solidarity is what we talked about. And I think also it's helpful to keep functionalism kind of in your mind as not the same as conflict theory. In some ways, the opposite of conflict theory. Conflict theory looks at our society, as we said, as a big social system, the economic system called capitalism, that you've been learning about and is going to be tested on here. And as we learn from that system, working people, according to the conflict theory perspective, are being mistreated by the capitalist system, being exploited by it. And if they want to make society better, and in fact, history is expecting them to do their part, because according to Marx, exploiting classes have always risen up against the exploiters and overthrown them and created a new society. So Marx thinks that's what working people are going to do. So Marx wants revolution. He wants this conflict in society for people to be aware of it and conscious of it and start doing their part to win the conflict. But Durkheim is coming at the whole question of what is society, what is sociology, from maybe from the other angle. Not from the angle of the working class people who are being exploited, but more from the angle of the elite people who run society. And if you're in the top group that's running things, then you're kind of looking at things a lot differently than if you're in the bottom group that's not running things. And so you can think of if conflict theory is all about change and overthrowing capitalism and shifting power from the powerful to the not powerful, that functionalism starts from the opposite idea of how do we keep things the same? How do we keep society going as it is instead of trying to overthrow it? How do we get rid of the conflict so that people are harmoniously working together rather than in this exploitative or fighting relationship with each other? And so functionalism begins really with social stability and social order. Marx and conflict theory kind of want instability. They see this conflict as a not good thing, and that if it's going to be fixed, it's going to require the working class people to overthrow the exploiters and create a new harmonious society. So Marx thinks harmony will come in the future and stability when working people, when the mass of people of planet Earth finally are in control of their own labor. But as we saw, that hasn't happened yet. There hasn't been a worldwide working class revolution, and it's really hard to get working people to come together. They find all kinds of reasons to hate on each other. And by the way, that's, I think, the whole key to Trump, is get working class people divided. Make white people hate Mexican people, hate black people, make American people hate Mexican people, hate, African people. And if working people are all divided, then they'll never fight global capitalism. They'll just take it. But Marx was saying, come together, working people, and fight this capitalism. And by the way, anyway, I don't want to get too much into politics, and it's not helping us. But social stability and social order, a functionalist says, well, those are the normal state that we should have. We shouldn't be having all this conflict and exploitation and a need for a revolution. Those, in a functionalist's mind, are signs of a sick society, an unhealthy one. But to get it healthy, we need to somehow bring back stability and order and harmony. And so it's not about revolution for a functionalist, it's about getting everybody kind of on the same page. In other words, to get people, and so what is social order? Order is when everyone's kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing. And again, I think with functionalism, even more than conflict theory, you can think of the basic society as any social group. Whether you're talking about a family, a classroom, a city, a country, you can use the ideas of functionalism to talk about all those same, the basic structure of a group. It's a group of people trying to work together to achieve a goal, let's say. And how do they do that? And functionalism says they, if they're going to do it, they have to have some order to it. It can't just be a free-for-all of each guy against the others. That would be a war, a jungle. But social order is people organizing themselves into a structure and saying, okay, let's all work together to achieve something. And so functionalists say that's the normal state of mankind, is to be working together to achieve goals that you can't get by yourself. And so, and to do that, and if you do that, you need social stability. You need people not fighting with each other, but cooperating, agreeing with each other, working together. And so again, you can always ask this, whether it's when you put it at the level of a country like America, it's very complicated and it's at a high level. But when you just try to apply this to like a classroom or a family, how do you get everybody on the same page? How do you get the conflict reduced? I don't know what your family is like, but sometimes I have conflict with my wife, disagreements over what we should do, how we should do it. Sometimes I have conflict with my children, what we should do, what they should do, how they should do it, what I should be doing, how I should do it. And if you're in the lead if you're in charge of a group of people, like you're the dad and mom, you're trying to reduce all this conflict and get everybody on the same page working together. Of course, if you're on the non-powerful side of things, if you're the children in the family or the wife, in some households, the dad is totally in charge and the wife has to do everything he says. That, by the way, is a recipe for conflict. But the people who don't have power often want to have power. They want to be free from the people with power. So there's conflict. But Durkheim says, if you have a well-run group of people, it's not a conflict. It's a team. It's like a good football team, a good soccer team. People want to do their part and they don't see it as a humiliating thing, to be over here. Oh, I'm just the, fullback. I just do defense and you get to be the center forward and score goals. No, let's all work together because we need goals. The team needs goals and the team needs guys defending. So the team needs us to do our part. And that's Durkheim's idea too. We need everybody to be part of the team. And there is no I in team, as a coach will tell you. Don't make it all about yourself. Make it about the team. And so what is needed for social stability and social order? Well, social solidarity. Social glue. People need to be connected to each other in some way. And solidarity is an interesting concept that we're going to unpack here a little bit and think about, well, what does it take for a group of people to feel like they're connected? I don't think in this group of people right here in this classroom that you feel all that connected. One guy's falling asleep right here. I think that shows us how he feels about the rest of us. No, he must be tired. But what I'm saying too is, if you compare this classroom of people, say, to a group you do feel connected to, and I don't know if you have a group you feel really connected to. I think that's a problem a lot of people have in our world today is they don't have one. And by the way, that was Durkheim's concern. People don't feel like they're connected to a group. They feel like they're an individual against the world. Just me trying to make it. And, but if you've been a part of a tight-knit group, like a football, like a team, or for me, I've been in choirs where we had to all sing together, or a stage production where we have to put a play on together, or a football team. When it works well, when everybody is connected and they feel really like this thing, there's this unseen thing that makes us all feel like we're really on the same page. We really like each other, or I don't know if like's the right word, but we really want to work together. It's like I said, it's hard to describe it. It's hard to make you feel it if you've never felt it before. But if you felt it, you know what it's like, and it's called social solidarity. It's that group feeling. These are my people. This is my tribe. These are my homies, my set, my gang, my crew. Gangs understand it. Criminal groups understand it. You need to have solidarity in a criminal group because everybody needs to trust each other really hard because we don't want anyone like ratting us out to the cops and stuff. So if we're going to be a good gang, we've got to really be connected and willing to like not rat out each other and like get arrested and not spill the beans and stuff like that. So like solidarity is a strong thing when it's present, when you have it. But how do you get it? What does it take to have this social glue, this sense that me as an individual, I'm stuck together with you and we're bonded? It's bonding is another way to put it. How do we feel bonded together as a group? And a lot of people say today America is not bonded. It's people feel totally separate from each other. And maybe that's a problem with America as a group. Is it functional? Is it functioning well, our country? Are we kicking butt as a country? Maybe not. But maybe you're part of other groups that you feel like the group is functioning well. Certain churches maybe. People feel really connected with the group and like we can accomplish great things together. An organization you're part of. I'm always telling students, get involved with an organization because if you're in an organization, when you come together with people and accomplish stuff, you really can feel that connection. But what does it take? I'm going to suggest to you that in order to have solidarity, certain things need to be shared. We don't feel solidarity necessarily with each other in this classroom. But you might feel it with your family. You might feel it with your sports team or with your church or your gang or whatever you're involved in. And so what does it take? What does this class not have? That means we don't have solidarity. What does the gang have? And I'm going to just give you a hint here. That they have to share, a group of people has to share certain things in order for them to feel solidarity with each other. What shared things can you think of that would help a group if you're trying to get a group of people working together? And by the way, I'm trying to get the sociology club to work together. I can't even get people to come and meet. If they won't meet, we can't really have an organization. And so I sit here thinking, what can I do? What can I get? How can I get people to join this group and be part of this group? I'm also working with Western Farm Workers Association. They are an established organization and they're helping to put on this play I want to put on. There too, I asked myself, well, they're out here today, by the way, they have a table. They're trying to get you to join their group. So they have to ask every day as an organization, what can we do to get people to want to join us, to be part of this thing? And then once we have people join, how do we keep them joined and feeling like they're part of it and then it's doing something for them? What do we need to share? Can you think of things that make a collection of people feel like a group rather than just a collection of people?
Maybe a common goal.
Okay, so shared goals are a big one. In this classroom, do we share a goal?
Class.
Well, but the way we set up education in our country, we pit students against each other. Some teachers even have a curve. Only some of you get A's, and some are going to get B's, and some get C's. Which one's it going to be? And you're all trying to fight each other to see who's going to get the A. And I guess some teachers like that kind of competition. But yeah, I would say the way we've set up education in America, we don't put students in the position of sharing a goal unless you put them together in a group project and say, well, you four have to work together. And then they're like, oh my God, I got respect this person. And the reason you're feeling bad about it a lot of the times is because you know you're in competition with other people for grades, and if your team sucks and they don't know what they're doing, then my grade's going to go down because my team was bad. But yeah, but having a shared goal, if you can put a group of people together in the classroom and say, well, your goal is to put together a presentation on functionalism next week, and it's going to count for 25% of your grade. Would you four have a reason to want to come together and start meeting and start, the sociology club, there's no obvious reason why people would come to it. But if I were to say, yeah, 25, you have this shared goal of getting 25% of your grade for this class. So maybe if there was some way to identify a shared goal, but yeah, but anyway, once you have a group, if they have shared, what other things besides the goal, what else helps? Like, why have the meetings? Do I need meetings for sociology club? We can't even talk about our goals and try to come to some shared goals unless we have a meeting. But what do we need to share in order to have a meeting? What? Well, that's what would happen at the meeting, but if we don't even come to the meeting, what do we can't have that. So what do we need to have a meeting? What is required? Time and a place. I mean, luckily nowadays we have this thing called, Zoom, so you can meet virtually or asynchronously and all kinds of stuff. But a basic thing a group needs is a place, a shared place that they come to, and then they say, this is where we are, our group. If we're all dispersed and we're in different places, it's really hard to have a group. But if you have a place to come to, like a classroom, a clubhouse, an office, a church, a place to come where you get together. So shared space is what I'm getting at. And that's one thing that makes a country a country. I mean, the group of people that all live in the same basic geographic area are a group of people. Whether they get along or not, or work together well or not, is a different question. But that's one thing that makes a country is this shared geographical land they're on. What other things do you need though? Like in that shared geographical land, so we have a bunch of people on this thing called North American continent. and between, Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean with Mississippi running through it. What else do we need to get that group of people, besides that they all live in that land? What else? And they're all people. What else do they need? And maybe they have a goal, because we could say America, we all want America to be great. I don't know anyone who says, I want America to suck. So everybody agrees with Trump that we want to make America great. So we have shared goals probably, but what do we need to, besides the shared land and the shared goals, to start coming together?
Resources?
Like what? Yeah, I mean, it's nice if they have resources to accomplish goals, but, and it's nice if they share them. But that's a little too vague for what I'm getting at here. Yeah, I mean, this is one resource they need, is solidarity. So how are we going to get that resource? I mean, without that resource, none of the other ones matter.
Maybe to feel like they have to depend on each other, like everybody has an important part.
Okay, so yeah, that's what's called a division of labor. And we saw that with Durkheim already, that he thought that was one of the problems with our modern world, is this question of who does what. Whose job is to do what? Is so complicated in our present world that we don't feel connected to each other. We're all doing such different things from each other that we don't feel like we share a division of labor. In his view, we actually do, because if you were to look at the whole structure of modern society, you would see that, like, a guy that lays pipe or something, he feels very disconnected from a guy who teaches sociology. We have very different lifestyles, very different worlds we live in. But if we understand sociologically how the modern world works, I, the sociologist, can't do my job without a guy laying pipe. And a guy laying pipe isn't going to have a great society to lay pipe for unless there are guys studying society and collecting data and analyzing data. So the pipe layer needs the sociologist, and the sociologist needs the pipe layer. But on a day-to-day basis, we don't really feel that division of labor. We are divided by the tasks we're doing, but we don't feel shared. And so that's what, a shared division of labor. Like in a household, if we all understand whose job is to do what, if my son understands you're the guy who unloads the dishwasher, and my other son understands you're the guy that feeds the cat, and my wife understands you're the one walking the dog today, and I'm the one making dinner. And if we all know who's doing what, then we can do it. And if we all agree with it. If my son says, yes, this is a good task for me, cleaning the dishes, and my wife's happy walking the dog, and I'm happy making dinner, then we're all sharing that this is the right division of labor. But yeah, if it's imposed, if I say your job is to clean the toilets to my son, he's like, that's a terrible job and I don't want to do it and I don't feel it's fair that you don't have to do it and I do, then we might not agree. I mentioned earlier in this class a camp, like if you ever go to camp, you might have a chore wheel, which is a division of labor. It has all the tasks on the wheel, but the wheel with the name on, everybody's name is on the center wheel, and that one moves around. So that everybody has to clean the toilet sometime. And if you do it right, everybody has an even number of times that they have to be the toilet cleaner. And other people get it, and there's other better jobs that people want, but those rotate too. And that makes it a shared division of labor. We're all sharing the work of this bunk or this camp, this cabin, and we all have to do the things that everybody has to do. What else do you need? What else would make America, if you're trying to bring a group of people together, you're trying to run an organization and you want your organization, your team to be working together really well, what would you do? Like, I've been thinking about this too. Like I said, are there things I could provide? What resource could I provide to the group that would make them feel together? And like one thing organizations often have is a t-shirt. Why? Why? And I've been thinking I want to buy hats for WFWA. I want to make a WFWA hat. Why have a hat? Why have a t-shirt? What's the point of that? Why not just let everybody wear what they want? Huh? Why have a shared t-shirt? What's going to be on that t-shirt or hat that would help? What does America have that we share that makes people feel like, yes, I love America, or whatever you're, huh? The flag. Who said flag? Flag, yeah, well, the flag, yay, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And what are we sharing when we do that? What do you notice about the flag? What about it makes you feel American or proud or connected to other Americans? Nothing? I mean, a lot of us, some people, if you burn the flag, they'll kill you. It's just a piece of cloth, man. Or is it? What is a flag? Why is it so important to people that you better not burn it or stamp on it or let it touch the ground? Huh? Yeah, it's a symbol. It's a shared symbol. It's what we would call a sacred symbol. But groups share symbols. They have some logo or some hand sign or some color or some picture or some cross or whatever it is, some logo, some image, some symbol that makes people feel like, okay, that's the team. I know that team. I mean, you keep falling asleep, but I see you because you're right up front. I mentioned your cross a lot because you wear it prominently, and that's a very sociological symbol. In fact, if you look at our website, I think I have a thing called Sociology by Keith Haring, the famous artist, and those I think there's a cross in one of the big, because religion's a big part of it. And Durkheim, one of his big things that he studied is religion, that we're going to get it to. But yeah, symbols are things that, so flags are symbols, team names like the Kings. My family bonds over watching the Kings play basketball, and we bond over having the purple Kings, the color purple, the beam, this lighted beam. I don't know if you follow the Kings, but sports, the love people have for a team is solidarity. I mean, one reason people, I think Americans love to root for sports teams is because America itself as a group isn't giving them that sense of shared solidarity. But when you come together with your other fans of the sport team, you really get that feeling of we're all connected, we're on the same page. And when it comes to the Kings, I don't know if you've ever been to a Kings game, they're known as, that stadium and the fans of the Kings are known as some of the best fans in the country for basketball. And one reason they say that is because when there's solidarity of the fans and they're all cheering together and they're doing things like hitting cowbells or doing waves or saying light the beam or whatever, it helps the team win. The team on the floor will feel like they call it the sixth man, that we have this whole crowd that helps us win. That ability to share this glue and create something that is bigger than all of us, that's bigger than us as individuals. So this little five guys on the floor, they become a much better team when 20,000 people are coming together to support them. And what makes those people feel connected? Symbols, colors, things, pictures, these King's logo, the color logo, all that kind of stuff. And so shared symbols. Shared beliefs, as you mentioned, are related to symbols because the symbols symbolize the beliefs. It isn't just two sticks crossing each other that people get all excited about. It's the whole story that represents, and the whole set of beliefs that it represents, and the future happenings that might happen to you if you believe in those things. So it has a lot of meaning around it of beliefs, these symbols. And yeah, if people have shared beliefs, they can work together. If we disagree about what's true or not, then we're not going to be able to work together. What else do we need to feel, to share? It kind of goes with the shared goals, but shared values. That's a sociological term that I'm sure you've learned previously in life, but it's this idea that groups have different values. For example, some, what's a good example of that? And I'll ask you instead of me coming up with all the thinking. Can you think of two different groups in the world that have very different values in terms of what value? So to say that you value something means that you think it's important, that people should care about it, that people should strive for it or something. Can you think of an example of that? Where two groups have very different values, shared values? Or do all human beings have the same values? Do we all think the same things are important? What about, for example, rural people versus urban people? If you were to go into a very country kind of town, and you talk to people about what they think is important, how they should be spending their lives, what they should be teaching their kids, versus if you went into a big city like San Francisco and went and talked to some people there, would you find the exact same things are valued? Like if the farming people say, I really want to get my kid into 4-H, I really want him to learn how to raise animals and deal with cows and shovel shit, it's really important to me that my children know how to do that. But then you go to the city and you go, don't you think we should have a 4-H club so our kids could learn to shovel shit, cow shit? Do you think the city people are gonna go, yeah, I really think that's important. I strongly value teaching my kids about shoveling shit. No, so you can imagine urban people and rural people having very different values. What about, say, Mexican families that you know versus, say, Punjabi Sikh families or white Anglo families? I mean, so ethnicities can have different cultures with different values. Anyway, so but for a group to feel a group, they have to share the values. And so, for example, if like going to church, some rural people and some ethnic groups say, if you're not going to church, you're not living your life right, you're not raising your kids right, I don't think you're doing things right, and I don't want to share space with you and share anything with you. But if we both value church and going to church as a good thing to be doing and that our kids should be doing, then maybe we can get along and work together. And so anyway, so values. There's another one here that, again, you guys don't seem like you want to be thinking or contributing, and maybe it's because you still have a whole unit's worth of material stuck in you that you haven't regurgitated out yet. So maybe you could take the test and come back Thursday more ready to handle new ideas. But there's another thing that I would say, this collection of people here in this classroom, we don't really have shared goals. We sort of have shared space, this classroom, for a little bit each week. We have a pretty shared division of labor, and then you guys are students and I'm a teacher, but we're not sharing it. We don't have tasks we're all working on together, really. We don't really have shared symbols other than what Yuba College provides, like 49er and Dusty 49er and all that stuff, blue and yellow, and Yuba Proud and all that stuff. Beliefs, I don't know. We probably have a lot of very different beliefs in this classroom about a lot of different stuff. Values, we could say that we all value education, and that's why we're here, and value learning and higher education. I'm sure we have some values in common that explain why we're all here right now. But there's something that you do have, starting to have, that I do think is that the more you have it, the more you would be a group. Is there something that you do share in here that I haven't mentioned yet that helps you be this group, that makes this group different, say, than other classes you're in? You have other classes you go to. Does this class share anything, the people in it, that your other classes don't have?
We're learning the same thing.
Well, yeah, we have that shared goal maybe of trying to learn sociology. Maybe I'm being too big, but a big one is norms, rules. One thing that really makes a group is what rules it thinks you should follow. And if you're going to be in that group, if you follow its rules, they will let you be in the group. If you don't follow its rules, they might kick you out. And so one of the big things that makes groups is a shared understanding of what is okay and what's not okay, right, wrong, morality. And you guys, as a group of people, have started to develop certain rules that you share, that nobody else in this world shares except this group. Is there a rule that this group follows that no other group on planet Earth is following right now? It's where you sit. I've already mentioned it before, but you guys, organically, meaning I didn't impose it, you just have decided as a collection of people that she sits here all the time. And Lindsay sits there all the time. And you might pretty much sit there all the time. And it's just a rule that's emerging. It's not a hard and fast rule. I'm sure if you sat here or there someday, all hell wouldn't break loose. But it's a little thing you guys have established as a group of people where we sit. And the more that we shared our space and our time and our goals, the more we would start developing rules, like who speaks when. Like pretty much after a while, you might say, do you, Flax, are you the only guy that ever gets to talk? But we want to hear other people's voices. So we'd say, let's come up with a system for deciding who gets to speak when, who gets the floor, you know? And a lot of organizations struggle with that very question, like who gets to be doing the talking, and, you know, how do we shut the people up that won't shut up? And, you know, so coming up with rules for that. So rules, and your home, your family, probably a big thing that defines it and makes you feel like you know who your family is the rules you guys follow. And a country, our laws, our constitution is one of the main things that people say. We know we're America if we have our constitution. And if people start not doing the constitution, violating it, then what? Then this whole place is going to fall apart. And so you could say one of the last things Americans kind of seem to agree on is we do have a constitution. And it's a shared set of rules that we're all supposed to live by. What do we do when the lead guy, the lead enforcer of those rules, just breaks them willingly? That's another chaotic situation we're dealing with. Like, can you even charge the guy with a crime when he was president and he was breaking the rules of the Constitution? And he says, no, I was president, and the Constitution itself says you can't do that to me. Well, the Supreme Court is trying to figure that out. So where we're having these crises in our country, not only over how many beliefs we share or values we share, but down to the question of what are the very rules that guide us. But starting with that question of rules, norms, that's really, all of this has been an introduction to what I really want to get into, which is what are norms and why are they so important? If you think back to the beginning of the class when we talked about functionalism, we said there were sort of three focuses of functionalism. We mentioned social stability and social order. But we also mentioned, I think somewhere in there, norms and the idea of rules and rule following as a big part of what it means to have a functioning society. If people don't agree on the rules, then they're not going to function well together. If people aren't willing to follow the rules, even though they know what they are, then you're not going to have a well-functioning group. And so rules are a key. But what are norms? We can say a better way to talk about them is that they're social expectations. They're what the social group expects of the individual. What we expect of you. Like when you come to a class, what do we expect of you? Expect you to be quiet, raise your hand, you know. In fact, I'm going to get into some of those. But a key idea here is that there are two main kinds of norms, and it's a good idea to analyze them separately and think about how they're different and similar. On one side, you have what are called informal norms. And on the other side, you have something called formal norms. And functionalists, by the way, functionalist sociologists have been the ones to identify these different types of norms. But why do they? What, and how are they different? Formal norms are called mores, M-O-R-E-S, and that has the same root as morality, the term morality, you know, right and wrong, mores. Formal norms have to do with that. Informal norms, though, are called folkways. And they're different, but I want us to think about why are they different and how are they different and why does it make sense to distinguish them. And we're really asking too here about, well, why should a group of people follow the expectations of the group? What forms do these expectations come in and why do you follow them? Well, let's take the seating arrangement. Why do you follow it? Did I impose it? Would you call it formal or informal? Maybe we don't know what that term means yet. To say that something's formal means to say that it's more conscious and organized and deliberate. Whereas informal things just sort of happen and nobody actually kind of leading it. But there's other distinctions when we're talking about rules. So like, based on what I just said, would you say your seating arrangement here is a formalized thing or an informal thing? Informal, like it just sort of happened. I didn't direct it, I didn't dictate it. And so what is it about when I'm saying just sort of happens? Well, what are some, but there's other rules that you do follow in this class that I would call formal rules, mores. Are there other rules that you have to obey in here that are more organized and more formalized and more organized by somebody like me? Well, a whole set of things about how you actually do the class. Like you have to take a test by Friday, and if you don't take that test by Friday, there will be consequences, right? And if you don't participate in class, you may end up with, a lower participation grade. So what's the difference between those rules that you're following and this one that says you're supposed to sit right there? Can you, if I'm saying that one is formal, that you have to take a test on Friday, but that rule that says you have to sit there, that's an informal folk way. What's the difference between them? What are some other criteria we could list here that makes something a more versus makes it a folk way? How did you know the rule about the Friday test? I told you. Where else did I do? What made it formal? I wrote it down. I made an assignment. I put it in Canvas as a written down assignment. In other words, formal norms are usually written down. They're formalized. They're put into writing, like a constitution or the 10 Commandments. That one got hammered into stone. I don't know if you know about the 10 Commandments, but yeah, it was like stone tablets God handed to Moses. So no, this isn't informal. This isn't like, hey, could you please think about like not killing people? It was, thou shalt not kill. It's a commandment. It's a formal rule written down. What else makes, and this one is not. I didn't write down your seating arrangement. It's what we would call more orally transmitted. Meaning, how did you know where to sit? What would happen, just because by visual cues. Just by looking around. And if somebody did sit in your wrong seat, you probably would get some visual cues that you are in the wrong place. People look at you funny, or they stand there like, you know what I'm saying? So the only way you know the rule is other people told you. Other people transmitted it to you with their eyes or their behavior. It wasn't something that was written down. You didn't read it somewhere. You either were told it by just informal conversation, or you just knew it from interacting with other people. And informal norms are like that. What else is different about them? Why do you adhere to this one? You do sit there every time. A lot of you didn't take the test. I told you, got to take the test. By Thursday, nobody's taking it. One person took it. But what's the difference between those two rules? So yeah, I wrote down that one. Does it mean written down ones you don't pay attention to, but the ones that are just informal you do pay attention to, or what? What other differences are there that might make you eventually take this test like you're supposed to? Huh? Well, maybe. I don't know about impacts more. What might happen? I mean,
informal isn't enforced as much.
Well, the question is who enforces it? Yeah, so enforced by who and how? Informal norms are informally enforced. Informal enforcement. Which kind of begs the question again, what do we mean by informal formal? But what I mean is it's peers. It's other people who are equal to you that enforce those norms. Peers means your equals, your social equals. Who enforces the rule that says you have to take the test? Me. An official, a person in charge. So formal norms are enforced by officials. Formal enforcement, we can say, formal enforcement, meaning it comes from officials. People who have an official title. I am the professor. There are police on this campus that are the campus police. They're going away in June. They won't be here anymore. I don't know who will enforce the parking rules after that. If they do enforce them. Right now, they're not enforcing them at all, I guess, the parking rules. But the point is the difference between informal enforcement. So you said it's more enforced. And this is a question I want to really get you to think about. Is it true that informal norms are just less enforced? I want to suggest, no, that's not an accurate way to put it. But it is true to say that these are enforced by other people, other equal people, other people, and these are enforced by people who are in charge, people whose job it is to enforce them. And yeah, so you said it matters more to you. Is that true though? What would happen if you don't obey the informal norms? All right, here, I'm going to ask the question this way. I think it's a better way to ask the question is, well, which ones are you more likely to follow, do you think? Informal norms or formal norms? Or a better question maybe to ask is, why would a group of people, if you're looking at a group of people like the United States, or a group of people like this class, why would they decide to write down some rules and codify them and formalize them and put them into a written document? On the other hand, leave some other rules not written down, informal, we'll just say them. Again, if you're a functionalist, you're asking, what function do these kind of tools serve? Why, as a group, would we write down rules? And on the other hand, in other cases, not write them down. What are the difference between those kinds of rules? And again, the way to think about it is, well, about this enforcement question. So what do you think would explain it? Is there a consistent reason why groups of people would write down some rules and formalize them and not write down other rules and keep them informal? Can you think of a basic principle or reason why a group would do that?
Maybe conformity.
Okay, well, we want people to obey rules, yes. I mean, there's no point in having rules if you don't expect people to follow them. But she was saying these are more enforced. And maybe if we have officials enforcing them, we'd say, and if the officials can do things like fail you in the class. But so let's just take this example. I don't enforce the one about where you sit. I do enforce the one about taking the test. So I enforce the formal norms in here. I don't enforce the informal ones you guys do. So what happens to you if you sit in Margarito's seat? You get an F in the class? No, I don't enforce it. What could happen? What happens when you don't obey the informal norms? Nothing? They're not enforced? Well, what does it look like when other people are the ones enforcing the norms? So what does it look like when a person in charge enforces the norms versus when the people in the group enforce the norms? Am I asking again too vague? So you do follow it every day without me saying anything. You do sit here. And every day I've been telling you to take the test, and you're going to fail the class if you don't, but you haven't done that. So is it that the more enforced ones you don't follow, and the enforced ones you do, or what? Help me understand here. Which rules you do follow, and which ones you don't, and why? What happens when so you are all following this one. You must be really concerned that if you don't, something bad will happen. Is that it? What would happen? You're not? What would happen if you don't follow informal rules? I'm going to give you another one. Well, so the normal answer to my question, not the normal, but common, if you ask this question, why are some rules formal and some informal? Why would a group do that? And you said conformity, okay, but you're begging the question. Which one induces conformity better? Or are they the same? And if they're the same, why do either one?
There's a difference in consequences between them.
Well, yes, these are informal consequences and these are formal consequences. Well, yeah, so you're asked to, you added something important. We're just talking about who does the enforcement, but what are the sanctions? This has informal sanctions, they're called. In other words, punishment. Sanction is a complicated word because it can mean different things in different times, but in this case, it means the punishment, what happens to you. And if you break informal norms, there will be consequence, there will be punishment, but it's informal. If you break formal rules, there will be consequences, maybe, but there'll be formal consequences. So this has formal sanctions. Well, what are the difference between informal sanctions and formal sanctions? What can a group of peers do to you if you violate their expectations? Because that's what we're saying. Norms are group expectations. And so a group of people has expectation, like I have an expectation of you that you stay awake in this class. That's the normal expectation of a classroom. And when people don't do it, what happens to them? When people don't follow the groups, and so just having a really hard time getting you guys to participate, which shows that I have a failure of the norms, because formally, you're supposed to be participating. And if you're not, you're hurting your grade, but that doesn't seem to be working, because you're all sitting there going, yeah, my grade's being hurted, except for Lindsay and a couple of you. But anyway, so what would help? Anyway, so what are the difference between them? Formal sanctions are written down. They're enforced by the official, and they're usually things like some kind of fine, or some kind of imprisonment, or some kind of formal punishment that you have to serve, that the officials are going to make sure you served. But what are informal sanctions like? What happens? What can a group of people do to you? So formal sanctions are things like fines, imprisonment, probation, those kinds of things. What are informal sanctions like, though? What happens to you when, so informal sanctions, I don't think I'm really asking you really super hard questions here. I just think you're refusing to participate.
Maybe outcasted?
Okay, yes, a group of people can say, you don't get to be in our group anymore. And we don't accept you anymore. It's called ostracism. Or basically social disapproval. Other people look at you and what do? What happens if you're known? So the normal answer I get when I ask, why would some questions be formal? Why would some rules be formal and some informal? You still haven't answered that. Why would a society do that? What does your textbook say? If you look at most social science textbooks, if you ask your dad, for example, Dad, why are some rules in this household really formal and you get really upset about them and other ones are more informal? What would he say? If you ask the cop, why are some laws written down and the cops enforce them, but other rules we just let regular people do the enforcing? Is there a principle, I asked you? Is there a consistent reason we could point to?
Maybe for safety?
Yeah, so some people would say the severity of the behavior. It's the severity. And I don't know where to put that, but I'm just going to ask that. Is it a severe threat to society? And that, I would say, is the textbook answer. Like I said, the normal answer or the simplistic answer, the answer a cop would give you. Why are some rules in place as laws and others not? The simplistic answer is, well, some behaviors are just so severe and threatening to the group of people that we had to put a law about it. And we had to tell you that you'll get fined or, we had to scare you. It's called deterrence. I don't know if you've ever heard the word deterrence, but if we put a scary law out there, hopefully people will be deterred from doing that behavior. But I'm asking you to think of this more like a sociologist than like a cop. And so if we really dig into that idea, is it actually the case that the things that are illegal in a country or a place, a group of people that are formally illegal are really bad, evil behaviors. And the things that are not formally enforced, those are just not very dangerous at all. Can you think of anything that is illegal that's not dangerous? That doesn't really hurt anybody else? Because I can think of quite a few. Are there, by the same token, things that are legal to do that really could harm people, but we allow people to do them and we hope that other people will enforce the rules? Like, I'll just bring up this example. So is it illegal to, I mean, is it the law that you have to cover your mouth when you sneeze? I mean, this relates kind of to the whole question of why should people wear masks or not? And we were trying as a society to get people to mask up, and a lot of people just wouldn't. Well, a similar question is, should people have to cover their mouths when they sneeze? How many here think it's a good idea, people should cover their mouth when they sneeze? I think all of us do. How many of you cover your mouth when you sneeze? I think all of us do. Is there a law that says if you don't cover your mouth when you sneeze, you'll be arrested and in prison? No. But you follow it. What happens to you if you don't follow it? If you're a person that goes around blowing snot on people without caring where your snot goes, does nothing happen to you? There's no enforcement? You said it's not enforced, the informal laws. Is that true? Nothing much happens to you if you go around blowing snot?
You get dirty looks.
Dirty looks, and what else?
Somebody wants to sit me next to you.
And they're probably talking about you. They're probably turning you into a weirdo. That guy, he sneezes on me. Did you ever get snot on your neck from that dude? Yeah, dude, when I was in class, and a big old loogie on my, I'm never sitting in front of that guy. Dude, I'm never taking a class with that guy. Dude, I heard his mom is, once people start thinking badly of you because you're breaking the rules, they're going to think all kinds of terrible things and say all kinds of terrible things. And that kind of enforcement really keeps us in line. We don't want to have people saying terrible stuff about us, calling us a weirdo, calling us a freak, an asshole, a jerk. I don't know what terms there are that people use to ostracize people, but you were saying get kicked out of the group. I would say, I want to submit to you that you probably spend a lot more time worrying about what peers are thinking of you and trying to obey the rules that peers are enforcing than you do worrying about what the authorities and the officials. Like, I'm sitting here hoping you'll take the exam and I'm monitoring it and none are taking it. They don't care what I have to say, dude. I don't care if I fail the class, I have to repeat, delete. C's get degrees, bro. But they don't care about my official enforcement. And the government's always saying, if you take drugs, we're putting you in prison. And so everybody stopped taking drugs, didn't they? No. So in other words, what I'm saying is official enforcement doesn't necessarily mean that's how we're going to get everybody to conform. Because in fact, the track record there, when you start telling the cops, it's your job to make sure everybody does this. Do we succeed? On the other hand, when we tell people, we want you all to sit in where you're supposed to sit, and it's the group enforcing it, it's you guys doing it. I as the teacher, don't have to do anything. And you just doing what you're supposed to do. On the other hand, the info, so yeah, it's a common explanation that the reason a group would formalize a norm is because it's really important to them. And they really care about it. But I think it's the opposite. What are the things that we don't have rules for that we do anyway? Like covering your mouth when you sneeze. We all agree with it. We all think it's a bad idea to blow snot. We all don't want blowing snot. So because we all share that value, that norm, we don't even need to put it in writing. It gets enforced. It gets enforced every day by everybody. And so you don't need cops enforcing the hand covering rule. You don't need it written down everywhere. In fact, when you start having to write things down and formalize them, that's a sign that there isn't agreement. To me, that's a better sign that the group doesn't agree. Like when the US government started saying, we're going to make it a law that you can't drink alcohol. And everybody will follow it because now alcohol is prohibited. Well, no, everyone kept drinking. In fact, drinking went up in this country when alcohol was illegal during Prohibition. And really, you could say it wasn't really a serious effort to reduce alcohol drinking. It was really an effort of one group to tell another group, you better act the way we think you should act. In other words, sometimes what's really going on with formalizing rules is there's conflict in a society. And one faction in the society wants to control the other faction. So they say, well, you don't like our values and norms, we're going to write into law the values and norms, and you better follow them. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. On the other hand, in a group of people that does share values and norms, you don't even really need to write things down because we all agree that that's how it should go and we do it. So it's a sign of a well-functioning group when they barely need to even write anything down and everybody just sort of knows what to do and they do it. It's a sign of a poorly functioning group, I think, when they're having to write everything down and threaten everybody. You better do what we say or else this is going to happen to you. Because in fact, this is not an effective, usually, way of getting people to do stuff. Now, so I would say a lot of our laws are ones that got codified, got put into place and written down with formal punishments because one group of people was trying to control another. Like our drug laws, a lot of them are like that. Some people think marijuana is fine and should be used. Other people didn't think it should be, and so they tried to force other people to not use it, but they kept using it. And now we're legalizing it. Now we as a group of people in a lot of places in America are saying, well, no, it wasn't actually, people weren't obeying the law. So that suggests it wasn't a shared value and norm. The shared value and norm really was that people think marijuana was okay and people should have access to it. And so people were using it anyway. So sometimes the informal enforcement is a sign that, you know, again, as a teacher, as a father, if you want to get people to do what they're supposed to do, if you're relying on fear tactics and saying, you better follow the rule, young lady, or you're going to get grounded for 2 months. If you're at that point with your daughter, you've already failed in terms of shared values, shared norms, shared expectations. If you've really got a good relationship as a family, then your daughter agrees. Yeah, there's a curfew, and I agree with the curfew, and it's a right and fair curfew, and I'll be home by that time. Folks, parents, I'll see you then. And as a parent, I can know I'm just going to go to sleep because I know she's on the same page. And I don't have to threaten her or force her. She wants to come home because she agrees that's the right time to come home. So if you're a good family, you've worked together on agreeing on things. Like, you know, if I say 10 o'clock's your curfew, and she's like, no, wait, nobody goes home at that time. And I say, well, what do you think the curfew should be? She said, well, I think it should be like 6 in the morning. No, I don't think it should be that because I want to be able to go to sleep and be able to feel like you're safe. Well, okay, what about midnight? Could we agree on midnight? If we can agree that that's a fair time, that you should be home by that time, and she agrees and I agree, then we don't have to have conflict. We have shared harmony over what the rule is, and I don't need to enforce it. She's just willing to do it. And if everybody agrees on it, like if you have multiple kids, they will like enforce it on each other. Oh, you came home late, I saw that, you know, you're a bad girl, or whatever, I don't know. Sometimes the kids can help each other stay in line. And just like students can help each other stay in line, just like citizens in a country, if we all have to be afraid of the cops arresting us, then we've kind of failed as a group of people to have shared values. And hopefully, I mean, a well-functioning country would be one where you barely need to even have cops on the street because everyone's agreed that there are certain rules we should be following and they're doing it. And when they don't, other people are the ones giving them dirty looks, not letting them be in their group, not letting them come to their parties. And so I want to suggest to you, informal enforcement is a much more powerful force in your life in terms of why you do what you do. I don't think you probably spend a lot of time worried about getting caught by the government for doing bad stuff. I think you probably do spend a lot of time worrying about, how do I look? Are other people going to think I'm cool? Do other people think I'm smart? Do people think I'm worth talking to? Do they respect me? All these worries we have about other people keep us much more in line in our behavior and what we're supposed to be doing than worry that some person in charge is going to find out we did something bad and punish us. And so I think it's one of the great insights of sociology that if you really want a group of people working together smoothly, this is what you're going for. this informal thing where we're all sharing the values, the norms, we're all on the same page, and we all want to act the right way because we want the group to succeed. And you don't want to have a situation where we've had to put in a lot of energy and time and effort into telling people, you better follow the rules or else we're going to punish you. That means you failed as a group. You're not a group. You're just one people with power forcing other people without power to do what you want them to do. And but we want to be sophisticated functionalists, not simplistic ones. And functionalism can have a tendency to be a little bit simplistic. Like I'm sitting here saying, wouldn't it be nice if we could all just get along and follow the rules? Well, it would be nice, but maybe it's a fantasy that functionalists have, where we all just get along and follow the rules and don't need cops and don't need guns to keep everybody in line. So let's try to be sophisticated functionalists. Yes, obedience to norms is what sociologists call conformity. And some of you have used that word already. It's a common sociological word. And when people violate the norms, that's called deviance. But again, we don't want to be simplistic. We want to be sophisticated functionalists. So a simplistic functionalist would say, following rules, that's good. It's good when everyone follows the rules. It's bad when they don't follow the rules. A simplistic functionalist, maybe we could call her Karen. I don't know if you know that term, Karen. But yeah, Karens are always trying to get everybody to follow the rules. You're not following the rules. And, but is that actually true, Karen? That it's good if everybody always follows the rules all the time? Or are there times when conformity is probably not a good thing? And is it true, Karen, that people who break the rules are always bad? Or are there times when breaking the rules is actually a positive thing? Well, what about you? Can you think of any examples where conformity, where going along with the group and doing what the group expects of you is not a good thing? Any examples in history? Cults, yeah. So if the guy says, hey, everybody in this group are now going to drink Kool-Aid so that we can go to another planet when we die. Maybe you shouldn't have gone along with, I'm talking about Jim Jones, and you guys know about that quote where they all drank the Kool-Aid and they all died. And we still say today, don't drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, don't go stupidly along with a group, what the group's doing, if what the group's doing is going to end up harming you. Yeah, are there other examples of conformity, mass hysteria, or mass group of people following the group and doing something stupid or bad or evil? Yeah, like anytime you see like mob attacks, sometimes a girl will get raped by like 50 people or something, or a group of people will massacre a village of people or something like that. Or even like what's happening in Israel. I mean, whatever Israel's doing to Gaza is like, and whatever Hamas did to Israel is a similar thing. But what I'm saying is that, yeah, going along with what the group wants you to do sometimes leads to evil, real bad evil. And sometimes the individual should stand against the group and say, guys, what you're doing is wrong. Stop doing this. I'm not going along with it. So a sophisticated functionalist understands that obedience to norms, the individual's choice to follow the rules or not, is an important one. And as the sociologists, we shouldn't just think simplistically that rules are always a good thing and they should be followed, and violating the rules is always a bad thing. And this gets really to the question of what is a function? When we say we're functionalists, what does that term really mean? And why it can be a simplistic idea is if you're always asking, well, what is the function of something? That's really what makes a functionalist is when they're studying society, they always assume if there's something going on in a society, it must serve some purpose. There must be some reason that people are doing what they're doing. Or it helps the group in some way that they're doing that. And that can be a simplistic way of thinking because it kind of sounds like that saying some people have where they say, everything happens for a reason. Have you ever heard somebody say that? I hate when people say everything happens for a reason because sometimes bad shit happens and there was no good reason for it. And if you think that everything's happening for a reason, I mean, it's called fatalism. It's like everything's already planned out and there's nothing I can do about it or something. But I am a person who believes in free will, and we do have a chance to make choices. And we shouldn't just say, well, things just are the way they are. And functionalists seem to sometimes fall into that trap of thinking, if things are happening, they must need to happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't be happening. But that's, again, simplistic. So we can ask, what are the functions? And we can ask, for example, what are the functions of deviance? There are positive functions of deviance. So like conformity isn't always good, as we just said. There's times when following what the group is saying is not a good thing. And the flip side of that is to say that sometimes when people don't follow the rules, it actually is positive. It might not be good in a moral sense, but it's positive in that it creates things. It makes things happen. That wouldn't have happened if that deviance didn't occur. Can you think of things that happen in our society because of deviance that, you know, maybe in the end, I mean, are positive in that we need those things to happen? A good way to think this question through is to ask, what would a group of people be like where everybody followed all the rules all of the time? Would you want to be in that group or a society where everybody all were Karens? What would that be like, and what would be wrong with that society? Why wouldn't you maybe want to live in a society where everybody was a conformist, a strict conformist? What does deviance provide? What does people not following the rules give us? Can you think? So one way to be different is to be a weirdo. Like we were saying, most of us don't want to be called a weirdo. But sometimes weirdos have been very important for society. Can you think of any people that were called weirdos or seen as weirdos, but who provided important things for America, and we're happy those weirdos lived? Okay, Benjamin Franklin. So inventors. He invented stuff. He was kind of a strange guy that liked flying a kite and tying a key to it, but when he did, he discovered electricity. And there's a lot of been sort of strange inventor types. People say Elon Musk is kind of a strange guy. People say Steve Jobs, who invented the Apple computer, was kind of a strange guy. Albert Einstein was kind of a strange guy who wore his hair all big and wore sweatshirts when everybody else was wearing suits and ties, and they're like, what? And he would wear sandals. They're like, what's up with this dude? Like, oh, he's a genius. But so innovation is what you're getting at. You wouldn't have new ideas, new inventions, new ways of doing things if there weren't people who thought different. And by the way, that used to be the slogan of Apple, think different. And Steve Jobs, one of the things, the way he thought different was when he went to college, he was really interested in calligraphy, like different fonts people write in. And he's like, I want to learn how to write in different fonts. And his parents and everybody is like, why would you study that? You can't make any money learning calligraphy. But he really got into it, and then when there were computers, he's like, why can't on a computer there be cool fonts? Like, why should it just be these pixelated letters that look like a robot wrote them? Why can't you have beautiful lettering and stuff on a computer? And just that desire for beautiful lettering on a computer led him to break away from the IBM model and create a whole new Apple computer. So it was weird, but it led to maybe a much better type of computer and eventually the iPhone and all that stuff. Graphics interfaces and using a mouse instead of typing. Anyway, so if you know the history of computers, you know that innovation has been part of it. What else does it give? What else? You can think of any famous lawbreakers, people who broke the law. But by breaking the law, they made our society better. They brought positive things to it. You mentioned Ben Franklin. Were there other guys around that time that broke the law? Ben Franklin broke it. Who were those people breaking the law that started America?
The lady that sat in the bus.
The what?
The lady that
Sat on the bus. Okay, so Rosa Parks. Yeah, and I was bringing up the founding fathers. I was bringing up Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, the guys that declared independence from the King of England they said we're gonna either hang together or hang separately, meaning they knew what we're doing is an offense where we can get killed for what we're doing, but we're gonna do it anyway because we think America should be a free country. So we can thank these criminals called the founding fathers for creating America. But again, so criminals aren't necessarily bad. We think those were great men. A lot of people think Trump is a great man for breaking rules. Other people think it's terrible to lead a mob of people to attack the Capitol. But other people would say, yeah, he's a deviant, he's a weirdo, but that's why I like him, because we need that kind of change in America. And so social change, challenging the laws, challenging the powerful, challenging the way things are. A term I should have used, by the way, and I can see your antsy to get going. When we talk about social solidarity, what a good term to think of here is maintaining the status quo. Functionalists mostly are for that. Functionalism is all about trying to get people to, like I said, social order and stability. We started the class today with that idea. And you can bring those two ideas together with this idea of maintaining the social status quo. And social change is the opposite of that. Social change is saying, no, the way things are right now is not good. Like Rosa Parks said, having a law that says black people have to sit at the back of the bus, and they can't sit if there's no seats back there. They have to stand, even though there's seats up front. She said, that's a terrible, wrong law. And so I'm not going to obey it. I'm going to violate it. And by violating it, she set in motion a bunch of other events that ended up eventually changing that law and changing all the Jim Crow laws in America. So yeah, we look back on her as a hero, not as a criminal, even though she was, yes, breaking the law. So anyway, we'll come back to this idea. But really, take your exam. If you don't believe the informal enforcement, the formal enforcement will happen. And so do take the exam before Thursday. Friday.